My name is Seger, and I'm one of the founders for Figgli. We are an artificial intelligence software development company. I just want to kind of take you guys through a couple of things that we do, kind of our model, and then maybe just kind of present one of the actual products that we've made. So we find that a lot of companies now maybe have a little more antiquated way of doing things, and so at times the software that they're using or some of the things that they're doing is a little bit outdated. So we thought, well, what kind of solutions could we come up with? The main point of our company is that we customize specific software solutions to the problems that people have. You guys have heard the kind of the expression pains and gains, and so lots of companies have pains. And so what exactly are we going to do about those pains, and how do we take those pains and turn them into gains? This is our process. We go through just kind of a real simple 4-point process of discovery, analyze, and design, and then we integrate that specific solution that they have. That pain then becomes a gain. This is a case study that we did for one of our very first customers. You guys can probably read it faster than I can speak through it, but essentially this customer had a problem. He had a lot of data, and he wanted to be able to take this data. He wanted to basically 100x this data. So we took the data, we were able to build an AI model that could take this data and then turn that pain into a gain. We'll be able to read that real quick. I think the value proposition for this specific case study was the fact that what he had with his data points would have taken him 11 weeks and lots of manpower. Obviously, it took us time to build the software, which didn't take 11 weeks, but once the software was built, we could duplicate that process over and over and over again. So every time we obtained new data, he was able to plug that data into the software, and then it obviously generated a solution for it. Here's a couple other tools that we've been working on with some customers. The stock market and the toxicology AI, which we basically customized in-house, were proof of concepts. Since we knew we were going to run into a lot of people who said, hey, what is AI? How can it help my company? How have you solved any problems in the past with AI? We built a few customized models. And two of those are a toxicology AI and also a stock market AI. I wanted to, if you guys have a minute, I wanted to show you just a quick video of one of the things that we've just put together recently for a customer, so you can kind of understand exactly specifically when a customer comes to us and they say, hey, look, this is one of the pain points that we might have, and we say, okay, let's gather that data, let's discover what you're doing, and then let's go ahead and build something on it. This is a customer that we have that launch is coming, I think, at the end of July. But this is a company called CakeSnap.
CakeSnap is the smartest way to deploy, engage, manage, and reward your biggest fans and best customers locally, on demand, in real time. Just set your budget, choose your campaign type, input a sample audience, then create a quest or adventure map for your influencers, and boom, CakeSnap does the rest. Never has managing and rewarding a community been so easy. Whether you're an agency, small business, or just a super fan, CakeSnap is here to help. Sign up today at cakesnap.com.
Okay, so that's just kind of a sample of some of the things that we do. So basically, if there's any questions, I just want to reiterate that we develop software based on a company's pains and turn them into gains. We don't always do AI specific because sometimes companies don't need an artificial intelligence solution for their company. This one in particular, CakeSnap, is going to utilize some AI technology once this MVP kind of moves forward and we gather a bunch of data based on the social media platforms that we're utilizing. Well, that's all I have. I don't know. I thought maybe there'd be some questions, obviously, and so I thought I'd take most of the time to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Please wait for the microphone to ask your questions so the camera can hear you. Who would like to start?
Thanks for your presentation here. And so just to clarify, so the business model is essentially consultancy for software development, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so you mentioned some of the tools that you've developed as proof of concepts. Are you monetizing those at all, or are those just?
Yeah, our specific model is based on each individual use. Some customers want to be able to keep the software, for themselves privately, and then we obviously just license it. We've also just developed some that is specifically, hey, we're just going to pay for development, and then we want to own it. Does that explain your question?
Yeah, thanks. And then I guess the last quick question is, what technology stacks do you primarily use to develop these tools?
So what are we using, Frank? He's our CTO, and he probably can answer the technology side a little bit better.
So we typically build everything from the ground up using Node.js as our primary language. We built a little bit of WebAssembly and a little bit of C++, just to test speed increases.
Cool. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
More questions? No.
Right there. Oh, sorry.
Hi. Again, thanks for coming in today. My question is a little more on the technical side as well. What's the difference between, you say artificial intelligence, but what do you do that's different than just an advanced algorithm? Does it actually learn as data's going through it?
So typically we start with a neural network for a lot of our clients that, because what we normally build AI for is something like predicting when something is going to happen or predicting stock prices. But also we have a convolutional neural network. I don't know if you know. And then we customize some of the key variables based on what we can do in that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, maybe I was hard of hearing when watching the video. Could you walk me through an example? So, start with the all ubiquitous widget. So I make widgets and then I do what?
So the question is, you want an example?
Yeah, can you give me an example of what this does for my widgets?
So you're talking about you specifically have a widget, and what can we do with the widget?
Yeah, how do you make me sell more? Please explain to me again exactly what this product does.
So it's not one specific product. Are you asking what CakeSnap does? Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. So, for example, with CakeSnap is a social media product that we developed for a client, and so they're using a different traditional way to advertise. If you do like Facebook, advertising, you get a certain demographics or qualigraphics or whatever, and then you launch a Facebook campaign. Well, what this does, CakeSnap essentially, is that it will work on lots of different mediums, and it'll take that particular campaign based on, which is kind of a different way to look at this, but it's based on the influencers. If you have 1,000 followers, or if someone that you know has 10,000 followers, they're able to essentially reach out to these followers. And in this particular example, what it does is it gamifies this actual process. So let's say, I don't know if Andy's is up here, but Andy's frozen custard, is that here?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're the owner of Andy's and you want to get people to come to your specific store, what you're going to do is you're going to gamify that interaction with the people that follow you. So you might say, hey, everybody go to Andy's, take a selfie or whatever. It's going to geo-track that, and then along with that, we ask you they're going to ask them to do something specific like hashtag I love Andy's in St. Louis. And once that's done, it's verified automatically, and then a reward is sent out instantly through DM or through if they have your email. So what it is it's a much different way of advertising. It's based on followers. And so what the AI can do from that situation, pardon me, is that it can get what we call super fans. So let's say it sends out to 1,000 people. 100 do it, and they run that for 10 weeks. And then they find out of that 100 that there's 25 of those that are actually super fans who are doing it constantly. So you recognize that that demographics or that qualigraphics of those specific 25 that are continually doing it, you got super fans. And that information is super, super valuable. So, and there's a ton of other stuff that's kind of being developed based on some of this technology. Does that make sense in this?
Yes.
Okay, so there's lots that go into this, and I know it's kind of difficult to explain this in just a 15, 20 minute presentation, but if you guys aren't understanding that AI is the next level of development in software, it's going to be able to do stuff that you guys already see when you look at your phones and it does face recognition. Like, that's AI. There's tons that Facebook's doing, there's tons that Google's doing, there's tons that Amazon's doing. This is the next level in software development. So there's lots of huge companies doing it, spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on AI. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Because they recognize that this is the future of what technology can do. Obviously there's going to be integrations with hardware, and there continues to be. But right now we're talking about infancy level, like little baby, like crawling on the ground, AI development. So obviously we're fairly fortunate that we have a team of technology experts that can bring this to a level that not everybody can get involved in. So we're very fortunate that. Anyway, go ahead, bud.
All right. Well, actually, I was going to take the next question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Walking over there. And my question is, from your marketing standpoint, who are you looking to meet? What are the best companies for you? Because I'm having trouble wrapping my head. I mean,
sure.
And ultimately, your long-term plan. Do you want to get bought by Facebook? What is the long-term scalability of this company?
Sure. So 2 questions here. Essentially, what's our exit strategy and how do we get our customers? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So first question is, how do we get our customers? Well, we've had a lot of success with meetings like this. People passing the word on, being able to talk to us and trust us. There's a lot of I don't know if they're buzzwords or not, but people talk about honesty, integrity, trust, and all these things, and how culture is so important to a company. I think the biggest thing that we can look at is, like, can you actually trust us? Can you guys actually engage with us? Are we a trustworthy company? And so that takes, several meetings and several conversations. So as people say, hey, these guys are interesting, it's an interesting concept, maybe we can have a couple of meetings, decide, like, hey, is that interesting enough to engage in? Maybe a small MVP, you guys, hopefully you're familiar with that is, building a minimal viable product, something that we can take and go ahead and start with a product or an idea and see where that goes and kind of iterate on that. The next question is, hey, if you got the checkbook, we'll just sell today. I don't know specifically what our exit strategy is. The interesting part of what we're doing is it's similar to an incubator. Like, we get a lot of projects that are brought to us, and we get to sit down and say, hey, what are people doing? What are some interesting things that people are interested in? And then we get to have those conversations. Does this equate to an actual real software? Does this equate to an actual real business? And then to be able to take that information and build something based upon what they specifically want to build.
I guess, rather than, let's not get grandiose here, maybe rather than talk about your long-term exit strategy, your long-term marketing strategy.
Sure.
Where are you trying to get into, and how are you trying to break into this? I mean, like I said, I kind of asked the question, what's your perfect client, and how can you scale that to 1,000 of them? And so at some point you could get sold.
Sure. That's a great question. So the question is essentially, what's our business model in relation to attracting clients and marketing on those clients? There's several ways that we feel like we can take this process. And one of the ways that I specifically spoke about one of our original clients. That client came to us with a specific question, and we were able to build something specific to him. But what we recognized is that this is scalable. His problem, his pain, was actually. Oh, no. I'll get
no, they're circling to me.
Oh, all right. Was actually something else, something that someone else could use in their business. So that equates to having a client and then being able to kind of look at this as almost like roots that could grow out based on building one specific thing for one client that now could equate to several different clients in several different industries. So that's the way that we're looking at it. We're looking at it as we get awesome opportunities to hear about people's ideas and then be able to take those ideas and build something, and then does this actually equate to some other type of business. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, what's your core team look like?
What is
kind
our
of experiences and what kind of stuff is that going on?
So what's our core team look like? Okay. So essentially, obviously we have the technology side and then also the business side. So we broke it down just into kind of two sections: is marketing, sales, business, accounting, all that stuff. Since we're a startup, and the other side is essentially focused on building out the products, supporting the products. Is that?
Like the actual members, like this person does this.
Okay, yes.
Their experience.
Okay, so Frank here, he's our CTO. He handles all of the building it. I just call myself the chief evangelist, so I guess that makes me the CEO. And so as we work together, we're able to kind of split those halves of the business. Did you have a question?
Over here now.
Oh.
I'm in charge of the questions. All right. Relax.
I want her to ask her question.
If she wants to do with that.
All right, go ahead, bud.
I feel great now, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. One of my sarcasm. Anyway, so it depends. So it seems as if there's a giant hook, and that you have to develop good games. I mean, there's a lot of mobile games out there, and some of them are terrible. What gives you an advantage in developing games that people will actually play?
Are you talking about Cake Snap again?
Yeah, what makes you guys a good game developer?
So it's not specifically a mobile game. It's an advertising.
Right, but gaming concepts. Not
So why is gamification important in this particular model? Because that's all it is. This is the only model we have that gamifies anything that we do. So why is that significant? Or what makes us experts?
Well, yeah, what makes you experts?
Okay.
Gamified anything.
So our client here, their company's name is Swagbot, and so they came to us and they said, hey, we want to find a different way to essentially advertise to people based on the tribe's mentality. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Seth Godin, but he bases his ideas based on us as influencers. Like this young lady, maybe she has 350 followers on her Instagram. I don't know, maybe it's 3,000, probably really nice. But it takes her expertise and her followers to be able to trust her more than it would be I don't want to use any names, but some celebrity. You might buy something because of some celebrity, you might just follow them because they're very interesting. But she may be one of my friends, and I'll say, oh my gosh, she went down to Andy's and she got a free frozen custard for texting da-da-da-da-da. Man, how did she do that? And then I call her or text her and say, hey, how'd you do that? And she says, hey, guess what? I just did this thing. They asked me to do it, and boom. That's the gamification difference, because we're connected. I'm not connected to Kim Kardashian, let's say, okay? And so I'm probably not apt to do everything that she asks. So that's where the gamification comes in. So they understood after 27 years at Chatbot that there's something different that goes on in the psychology of the gamification. You're a little bit more apt to, on a social media, very tribe-related situation, to follow what she does. I'm sorry, I don't want to embarrass you. What she does than somebody who's got 10,000 followers that you just like to follow because you like their makeup line or whatever it happens to be. So there's a psychology difference that's been studied for many, many, many years with this company, and they said, we wanted you to develop a product that will take the gamification and basically disrupt the advertising that goes on typically of, click on this, here's an ad on the Super Bowl, here's blah, 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 blah. It's a very different mindset, and so it actually works very, very well, and we don't recognize how well it works until you're actually engaged in it. Is that give you some point of reference, what the client wanted and how they had expertise?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Emily.
Okay, so I think I'm getting a sense of how you use AI to sort of market to a wider selection of people by using patterns and figuring out who is connected to who.
Mm-hmm.
But could you also go over the example of the toxicology AI, because I don't understand how you
Sure, that's a great
learn.
question. Okay, so with anything that's new and innovative, there's a lot of skepticism. We've been in conferences and people have asked, what do you think about robots taking over the world and things like that? And so it's hilarious to us because that's 50 years, 100 years. It could be tomorrow actually, but they ask us these crazy questions. So like with what you're saying, we had to build something that made sense. So what we did is data, there's data everywhere. Data is very, very interesting. So we went and got CDC data. So it was free data at the government. And so the CDC has a data set of over 6,000 toxic chemicals. These are chemicals that if they're ingested, if you smell them, if something like that happens to you with contact with these, that they can cause some serious damage or death. So we took this data set, so these 6,000. We wanted to ask this data set, like how if this young lady came into the hospital and she was working at somewhere, maybe she was in the parking garage and she got exposed to some type of chemical, whatever that was spilled there. She comes into the hospital or an EMT shows up and they don't know what's wrong with her. They have no idea what's wrong with her. She's throwing up or she's having these symptoms. So it takes these symptoms and it asks a simple question. Are you experiencing vomiting? Yes, no, I don't know. Because we don't know if she's vomited yet. We don't know if she's going to vomit later. So it took this information and basically added a value to it. If you said, is she vomiting? And the answer was no, it does not take this off the list. And that's where the AI comes in and it starts to think and it says, okay, maybe she hasn't vomited now, but she may vomit on the way in the hospital. So the answer is no, but it doesn't drop it off the list like you normally would do. Yes, no questions, no, essentially on a test means it's off the list. So what the AI does is it takes these questions that are asked about the symptoms and it propagates basically a level of where these symptoms sit. And so after several questions, it is able to propagate, this may be what she has been exposed to, makalaka-nakanate. I don't know what the name of the chemicals are. And it'll put it at the top. So what we did to test it, like as humans, is number one problem right now in hospitals, overdose, is heroin. So we took this information, this is sad, we took this information and we took the heroin symptoms and we started at, is the person doing X, Y, Z? Added that into the thing and then within 5 or 6 steps, heroin was at the top. So that's essentially how the AI works. It thinks and it understands, and then once the heroin was at the top, it also gave a first aid specific to what you could do if someone was done with that. So you go through these symptoms and it basically can propagate a 5 or 6 chemical reaction. So that's just one small thing. No one even uses it, which is sad because there's chemical accidents all the time. But anyway, does that help? That was probably too long-winded. Good?
That's good.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
So I have a question. Actually, a few short questions. Are you guys are a service-based company, right? Is that?
Sure. Yeah, we love serving people.
Okay, great. And are you guys? So my thing is like with AI is actually a suite of technology, right? So it's not just AI isn't just one thing. It's it's machine learning, it's IoT, all these different things that create what it is. So as your value prop, are you utilizing all those suites of technology to service your customers? Is that correct?
So the question is, are we using like machine learning, IoT?
Yeah. Is that basically what your firm does?
So yeah, we use it. So AI is a pretty generic term, just means artificial intelligence. There's parts of it like that you're talking about, like machine learning or deep learning or whatever. So there's some different things, and I think the field, obviously from like a nerdy like PhD perspective, it's going to grow, and you're going to hear about different things as time evolves. But yeah, essentially we use basically software solutions or software in the AI
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like I'm trying to place your firm. Is that your value prop to your customers, where you're saying, hey, we're not just building great products for you, but we're really focused on specific suite of technologies where we can really focus and help kind of grow your products at scale. Is that
yes. The question is our value prop artificial intelligence, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the value props. I think one of the other value props is the fact that we can specifically pinpoint a pain that a company might have, a specific, I don't know, maybe it's an HR pain, and they're like, how come we have so much attrition with our new hires? Like, you know, what's going on? So, you know, they've got a bunch of data based on some interviews or some questionnaires or whatever. We can compile that data and we could, you know, address that through artificial intelligence.
Okay,
So,
I was just trying to figure out like
Sure.
exactly like what you guys kind of do, because I've been hearing like AI a lot.
Sure.
Because I'm thinking, trying to figure out, okay, like, so is it, you know, is that your big thing? Is it centered around, hey, we're a service-based company? We focus on creating a whole suite of technologies specifically around artificial intelligence for our customers. That makes sense for me. And then if you say, hey, I want to license out some of our software that we do create for our clients, and then you kind of create it, turn them into own products ourselves, then also that makes sense because it also scales. That's what I'm trying to figure out, like in this context, in this conversation, is that what you guys are looking at, or like just so trying to make it all make sense?
Sure. That's a great explanation. I think that explains the model pretty well. You know, because obviously if Andy's does something with us, then McDonald's has that potential along with Qdoba or, you know, whomever else could actually use that technology. And then it's, do we license it to them? Do they just want to buy it all and say, hey, we want it exclusively, think this technology is very, very interesting and we want to do that. So I think we're pretty open when it comes to like exit strategy or whatever. At this point, you know, obviously we're just trying to generate revenue and build things that people love. And so for me as a passion, and Frank also, is we're very interested in building things that people are passionate about. And a lot of where our clients come from, like just our normal everyday clients, they come to us and they say, hey, look, I've always wanted to do X, and whatever X is often involves software or involves some type of technology, but they don't have that technology aspect in their, basically in their tool chest or whatever. They may be really good at marketing, they may be really good at leadership, they may not be very good at anything, but they've got a great idea that they're willing to ask us to develop. And so I think there's a value prop there that also helps us with our passion. And our passion is to help people develop awesome tools. And so if someone comes to us and says, hey, we'd like to partner with you guys and develop this awesome tool that we feel like is a pain, not only for us, but, you know, could someday be a gain, you know, for somebody else. So I feel like we want to continue to do that. No matter what happens, no matter what customers that we get throughout the future, we want to be able to, if someone approaches us, say, hey, we got this problem, we've got this question, we've got this passion, would you guys help us to take the technology and build that? Is that's kind of our ongoing game plan for the future.
I can talk loud.
Oh, you know what?
And I can get closer too.
Okay. I was wondering how long have y'all been when did this idea start? And then when did it become a real company? How long have y'all been here? And what's been your biggest lesson that you've learned so far?
That's a great question. So her question is, how long have we been here? When did we start, and what our biggest lesson is? Is that fair? So we started the company last year, and basically we started it over kind of like lots of companies get started at a napkin or at the garage or whatever. We were talking about this idea like, hey, we've got this capability to build these awesome products. And so what do we do with that information? How do we do it? So that's kind of how it came about. I guess in 20 years you can read about that we died or that, you know, somehow we made a great company out of it. So, and then to the next question, what's our biggest obstacles? Is that correct? That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. You know, you can read all you want about startups and they can talk about all the glory days of when they were in the garage or whatever, this or that. But I think really when it all boils down to it, our biggest challenge is the same as kind of everybody's in life. Like what exactly are your struggles? What are your challenges? And I think everybody's different. Us specifically, obviously, you know, monetizing on everything that we do. We've done a lot of like vanity projects, so to speak. Like, oh, hey, yeah, you guys want to do this? Oh, we're so excited, you know. And we get all jazzed up, and then pretty soon it it kind of has a fizzle. And so I feel like we bring a lot to that. We can kind of help keep that motivation and that vision alive. So that initially was kind of something that was really challenging for us. But I guess also the other thing is, I hate to say this, but keeping your moral compass right where you want it. Because there's lots of people who want to do things that we don't feel are morally acceptable. And so that's been hard, you know, to kind of think about and say, hey, are we really going to take on this project even though it does monetize? There's ways to do hacks and to do different things that monetize, and we could build those. But the sad truth is she probably doesn't want me to blow up her Instagram every 36 seconds and use a whole bunch of data and information that I can glean from her and use that for purposes that are not the most moral. And so that's been hard for us to decide like what the moral compass is and stay true to that and be trustworthy. And whether our company explodes and we go on to do very well, or you know it dies next year, we want to at least be able to stay with integrity that we did the right things and we did what was moral and we did what we felt was right. And so sometimes the answer is no, and that stinks. But that is a great question. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going to take the final question. And what can the community do for you? Why are you here today?
Well, I think, you know, we've talked a lot about this. We've had lots of opportunities to speak. I think we're just happy to be able to kind of spread our message, which is, you know, obviously number one. But number two is to kind of talk a little about and educate what AI is going to do in the future. I mean, obviously, if there's somebody that has a pain we could help them with, if there's a company that you know that maybe you work with or that you know that would like to, I guess, have some software developed, and we'd love to have those conversations. I guess that's probably about it, but I want to say I really do appreciate all you that came, and we're very humbled by the opportunity to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.